Subscribe to this YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now and the bell icon so you can be notified whenever a new video is posted. And if you're already subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you. Seems every week I get a few people telling me that they were unsubscribed without their permission. Also, be sure to give the video a like. The white supremacists hate that. Now, that said, you know, folks, you would have thought that with Herman Cain having gone to that butter biscuit jamboree down below, some of these bootlicking Negroes would have finally learned that cooning is a career path that doesn't come with a retirement plan. Though in the case of one Jonathan Isaac, it doesn't even come with a career. For the people who keep wondering, why must you put such emphasis on concepts and phrases such as foundational Black American or descendants of American slaves or survivors of slavery in America? Why must you put such emphasis on that? And that's because when it comes to these Black people from the diaspora, whether it be from South America, from Africa, or the Caribbean, when they get to the United States, all of a sudden, a vast majority of them, not all, but damn sure a majority of them, start acting like they don't know what planet they're on, that white supremacy doesn't exist. They start acting as if they're something that they're not. And, well, you see, that's what this Jonathan Isaac character decided that he was going to do. So these guys, they, especially if they're in sports or in their some sort of high-profile arena, somewhere where they got the white media giving them some attention. Oh, they want to show out. Oh, they're going to show their whole behinds, especially where the former slaves are concerned. They're going to let us know that they're not with us at all. They're going to go overboard. They're going to be doing the most. Really showing out for massa. And that's exactly what this Jonathan Isaac character decided to do. He's not one of us. This guy's ancestry goes to Puerto Rico. So as far as he's concerned, he needs to show that he's different. Oh, he's glad just to be here. We ain't gonna let these white supremacists who run the white media and who whine online and who write the sports columns, we ain't gonna let them think that I ain't proud, I ain't happy just to be here. I'm just so jolly in the behind just to be here. You ain't gotta do nothing. You ain't gotta treat me like a human being. I'm just glad just to be here. Because Black people all over the world, they know exactly what it is the white supremacists want to hear. They know exactly what it is they want to hear. You go ahead and deny reality, deny racism, go ahead and give them a pass for 500 years of brutality and savagery, and, well, you'll be the belle of the ball. So Jonathan Isaac, he made it clear when the NBA was starting up again, oh, well, everybody else is taking a knee, but I'm going to be the one who doesn't. And just to make sure that I'm going to make sure that I stand up, I'm going to be wearing my white shirt while everybody else is wearing black. And I want it to be absolutely clear. I'm not with these guys. I'm not with them at all. Oh, he was so proud of himself. I'm not going to take a knee. I'm not going to take a knee at all. So apparently it seems one of his knees got taken. See, that's what happens. If you don't take a knee, then one of your knees gets taken. See what I did there? But now Jonathan Isaac, who was so pleased with himself, and he was just counting how many pats on the back he was going to get from all these white supremacists online, who he is so eager to win the favor of. He was just counting all the compliments and pats on the head for being a good little boy that he was going to get, because he refused to take a knee like the rest of these uppity niggers. And so now what's happened is he took a knee all right. Now kneeling is about the only thing he can do because he can't stand. And this is not the first time this clown's had some sort of knee injury. I mean, he's already had one before, but not like this, he ain't. Now, I don't expect him to learn anything from it. He's not going to. That's part and parcel of being a bootlick. Bootlicks are just terminally unable to be educated. I mean, ain't no cure for stupid. And if you're a Black bootlick, well, that's about as dumb as they come. They don't get much dumber than that. But that's the thing. This is the reason why we are not able to have Pan-African unity. Because truth be told, ain't nobody but us, the former slaves of America, we're the only ones who are actually on that Pan-African stuff. We're the only ones who actually look at all Black people around the world And we are trying to remind everybody that there is an African identity that crosses all national, religious, geographical boundaries. That all of us are the sons and daughters of Africa. But the problem is, these other groups out here, especially these immigrant blacks who keep coming to the US, they're not interested in that message. In fact, they hate that message. They ain't buying what you're selling. If what you're selling is some sort of Pan-African identity that crosses all lines. The problem ain't us, the problem is them. We've been trying to get them on board with a program that they want no part of. Oh, but they will come here. They couldn't build anything in Puerto Rico, couldn't build anything in the Caribbean. They do not build anything anymore in Africa, haven't in a damn long time, though they will let the Europeans and the Asians and Arabs and everybody else run roughshod over them and take what they have. So having failed to have done the job of building where they are, they come to where some black folks did do some serious building, except now they're showing up and they, just to get a pat on the head, they know that they're taking a part in a lie. This idea that these African immigrants or just black immigrants in general, that apparently they're harder working than us like hell. Look at the countries that they come from. Look at the places that they come from. Where the hell's all this work ethic there for the very places that they call home? What happened to their work ethic then? No, they know exactly what's happening. They know that this whole myth, this fraud, this fiction, that, oh, well, it's just because these guys are so hardworking. They know that it's more or less a lie, but they also know that this is the lie that they have to take part in if they're going to win the favor of the dominant society. So they've done it. Jonathan Isaac felt very clever. He felt very pleased with himself. And now the only thing that he's feeling is like perhaps he sustained a career-ending injury. And no, do not expect me to be sitting here crying tears for him. This is somebody who was proud to stand up and not take part in a demonstration to show the entire world that we are not going to be walking targets. He had no problem trying to hide behind religion. That's another thing. This combines two of my pet peeves. Black folks who come from outside the United States who get in here because of what we did to help them get in, and then start disrespecting us and trying to show out and trying to show that they are opposed to anything that we're for. If it's something that we're in favor of, they're against it. So they do the most to show I'm not like these guys, not like them at all. And then religion, which happens to be a thin, petty smokescreen that a lot of black folks like to hide behind to cover for their cowardice. This Isaac character was not willing to say what I just told you, which is I am trying to win the favor of as many of these white supremacists as possible, and I want you to know that I will kiss as much of their behinds as possible. You can kill all the black folks you want. I'm just glad to be here, and I'll do anything so that massa isn't displeased with me. Instead of saying that, instead he tries to hide behind religion. He gives that all lives matter crap. Anytime somebody says all lives matter, that is a blatant declaration that they are absolutely opposed to the idea that black people should be able to live our lives in peace and safety. Someone says all lives matter, what they're saying is black lives don't matter at all. And that's exactly what this Isaac creep said. I believe in the gospel of Jesus. And Negro, you weren't talking like this last week. You ain't going to be talking like this next week. You're only doing this because you're trying to show the white powers that be that you are a good little nigger who's dropping Bible verses when you're not dropping to the floor. You're dropping Bible verses. See, I'm fully on board. I am completely indoctrinated like a brain-dead puppet. You could tell that his white supremacist handlers had their arms halfway up his behind. And here he is just being their little meat puppet. But this guy, for him to pull a stunt like this, that is unpardonable. And the fact that the Players Association hasn't decided, we got to get this guy out the paint, that says a whole lot about him, lets you know who's really in charge now, don't it? But Jonathan Isaac's not the only one who decided that he was going to act a fool. Why, you had Stephon Tuitt, who I guess plays for the Steelers in the NFL. And here's another one, just like with this Isaac character. He comes from the Caribbean. And he went on Twitter and he wanted to make a big show of how opposed he is to anything that we are doing. Quote, also, I'm not kneeling for the flag. And screw anybody who have a problem with that. This clown can't even speak the language, but he's sitting here trying to talk tough. My grandmother was an immigrant from the Caribbean, and age worked her ass off to bring 20 people over the right way. She had no money and educated herself to be a nurse. She living good now. Yeah, that's about the kind of grammar I expect from a monosyllabic caveman like this clown. This walking Neanderthal. That's what the world he does. Oh, he's bragging about his Caribbean roots. That's somebody who's looking for a white audience. Anytime some black person shows up and they start talking about, my people are from here, they're from Ghana, my people from the Congo, my people from the Caribbean, my people are from Peru, my people are from here, this, that, and the third. What they're doing is they're trying to tell the white powers to be, see, I'm not like those disrespectful Negroes who you guys had build the country for you. I'm the good Negro who's not going to complain about it if you guys will just throw me a couple of shekels. Just give me a pat on the head. Oh, don't worry about how many pieces of silver for my soul. My soul's dirt cheap. But the damn disrespect that this guy has. It's black folks who kicked open the door so this idiot could have a career in the first place. He would still be in the Caribbean. I don't know what the hell kind of skills he's got, but one damn thing for sure, ain't no football league in the Caribbean. We had to build one here. So he comes here, his grandmother comes over, because we were the ones who fought to tell the government, you cannot be having these 0% quotas for black immigrants. You got to be letting black folks in too. We did that because damn sure we're none of them over here to do it. So we fight to make sure that these guys are able to get access to the United States. And what do? As soon as his grandmother shows up, she's sitting here, no doubt, pumping his empty head full of all sorts of nonsense that he's better than. He's better than the people who got him in here. He's better than the people who built a community because he could not build one in the Caribbean. He's better than the people who established the very institutions and the very arenas that he's able to just walk in and take advantage of because we built them before he or his grandmother even got here. And this is what this scumbag does. Yeah, this is what you get. And there's a reason why I'm focusing on sports in particular, because I'm hoping that black folks will understand these two. They got careers only because of what we did, but look at how eager they are to spit in our faces. Look at how eager they are. As far as they're concerned, they want to make a big show of it. I'm not kneeling for the flag, and screw anybody who have a problem with that. Screw anybody who has a problem with that. Now he's pointing that at you and me. Now, before we go any farther, it needs to be said that, of course, there's a number of brethren in sorority in the B1 who happen to be of foreign ancestry, and that's fine. That's not the issue. The problem happens to be y'all need to be speaking up when this kind of crap goes down. You guys need to be making the most noise, and unfortunately, too many of you are basically giving a tisk and leaving it at that. They need to be facing maximum resistance from you. You're the ones who need to be putting them on notice that they're dead wrong, they don't speak for anyone except for themselves, and that they are isolated. Those of you who happen to be of Caribbean and African, direct African ancestry, or I rather should say immediate African ancestry, because we're all direct from there, but more immediate. Those of you who are first or second generation in this country, you're supposed to be the main ones calling out the Jonathan Isaacs and the Stephon Tuitts. You're supposed to be the ones leading the charge on that. That is, if you are indeed having your head on straight, if you indeed mean what you say, you should be the ones that we're hearing coming out against these guys. Some of you have, I would imagine, but the problem is not loudly enough and not strongly enough. Everyone's going to have to make sure they give an accounting of themselves. But the thing is, these ain't the only two idiots pulling this mess. We got to understand and be honest with ourselves. A lot of these Negroes coming up in here in the United States, a lot of these people coming over here on whatever boat or what have you, by whatever means they got in here, a lot of these Negroes that you see with these foreign flags, these guys in many cases have severe mental issues. They got severe mental problems. Part of the reason why the white supremacists say, go ahead and let them in. Even if these guys try to put their heads together with the former slaves, they'll be completely and thoroughly dysfunctional because they ain't right. But as Stephon Tuitt, what the hell does he want? He wants a pat on the head. As far as he's concerned, if you got all of these people from the dominant society getting their noses bent out of joint because you got all the athletes kneeling, then what happens is you want to find a quickie way to just stand out and get a whole lot of attention for doing nothing. Go ahead and say, well, I'm not going to be kneeling for the national anthem. I'm not kneeling at all. You'll stand out simply because you're the only idiot who's stupid enough to do that. You got a whole bunch of these white supremacists looking at these Stephon Tuitts and the Jonathan Isaacs and going, what a bunch of morons. We would never do anything like that. We would be on code. But of course, their faces going, that's right. You guys, you really do think for yourselves. And that's the favorite line that the white supremacists like to do whenever one of their chosen Negro bootlicks goes ahead and does some sucking up routine, some pathetic bit of servile behavior. Well, this guy, he thinks for himself. No, he doesn't. That is the last thing that Stephon Tuitt or Jonathan Isaac was doing. They were not thinking for themselves. They were doing exactly what they thought white power wanted them to do. See, it's the cowardly move to sit there at this late date. I'm going to stand for the flag. That's a cowardly move. A coward stands for the flag. A coward actually stands for the Star-Spangled Banner, especially if you're black. We done told you about how the Star-Spangled Banner was written by a card-carrying slave owner, Francis Scott Key, who was a lawyer who spent most of his legal career defending slave owners, defending their right to own black people. But I guess Stephon Tuitt figures, well, that wasn't my ancestors, so it don't matter. Jonathan Isaac figures, well, that's y'all's ancestors, not mine, so it don't matter. Look at the sheer disrespect these two scumbags do. Oh, I guess they figure we're going to be bold about it. And this is the reason why I got problems with black athletes. They're supposed to be in charge of who the world is allowed to be in their league, but of course that's the problem. It isn't their league, is it? It's not only is it not their league because they don't own it money-wise, but it's also not their league because they are not understanding that when stuff like this goes down, these two are a cancer on your particular sports league, and they got to go. See, they don't run it in any shape, form, or fashion because too many of them, they've got their agents, usually white, got their managers, usually white, got their PR people, usually white, and they have their handlers, always white. And they're being told all the time, you can't go too far, don't say this, don't say that. Well, what should I say? You should say, God bless America, there is no racism, and the police deserve a pat on the back because they do a tough job every day. Well, that would be a total lie. Well, you can't have everything. That's what they want them to do. Now, Isaac and Tuitt are willing to do that. They're willing to go ahead and make excuses for a society that is murdering black people in the streets. Because I guess they figure, well, it won't be me, or at the very least, maybe I'll get some more interracial sexual access. Well, at this point here, there's always some white women who are going to be very eager just to say that they slept with some nobody from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who the hell is this Stephon Tuitt character? I've never heard of this clown before. Granted, I don't exactly follow sports like that, but this guy, this is about the most high-profile thing he's ever done. What does he think is going to happen, huh? Does he think that he's going to get a raise out of this? Doubtful. He ain't really good enough to actually make a name for himself. This is not a man who has distinguished himself in his chosen arena. He had to get out there and do something really stupid, just make a royal north end of a southbound mule out of himself. And because of that, this is the only reason why anyone's talking about him. They damn sure won't be talking about him a week from now. And he won't be doing anything that actually justifies anyone mentioning him a week or a month or a year from now, just as we didn't know who the hell he was a year ago. But the damned insult. I mean, how dare you? How dare you? Now, you might be wondering, with the looming election on the horizon, why is it that we're talking about this in particular? Well, also because we need to be reminded that the white media and the white political establishment, left and right, have a number of these black immigrants who claim that they've got the exact same ancestry and the exact same history with us. They share the exact same history when they don't. They came in very recently. We didn't share any history until the last couple generations or so. They don't go back to the killing fields of the American South, and it shows. So when these guys try to make it seem as if, oh, well, when I say black, I can speak for us all. The hell you can. You can only speak for black immigrants who showed up the last couple generations. You can't even speak for somebody like a Stokely Carmichael or a Dr. Ben Yakinen. You can't even speak for them because those guys were here long before you. You can't even speak. I mean, speaking of Puerto Ricans, Joseph Ben Yakinen, that's where his mother was. I believe Malcolm's was also Puerto Rican, but their fathers were not. Especially in the case of Malcolm, his father's ancestry goes back to those killing fields just like ours does. Ben Yakinen's to Ethiopia. But it is not harmless whenever you got these black immigrants deciding that they're going to lend out their melanin to try to push a white media lie and make it seem as if I represent a legitimately contrarian view. Why, I have the same background as the rest of these Negroes, and because of that, you should be listening to me. After all, it's about Black Lives Matter. Well, when we say Black Lives Matter, we're being a little bit more specific than that, mind you. But the thing about it is, Akai Gurley and Botham Jean and Amadou Diallo and a number of others, these are the people who are also of black immigrants who showed up recently, and all of them murdered with impunity. And you got Jonathan Isaac and Stephon Tuitt making excuses for that. They're making it clear we have no objections to lodge. Why, Tuitt went overboard with it. He was trying to make a whole fool of himself. He ain't kneeling for the flag, and screw anybody who has a problem with that. Yeah, he don't give a damn about any of those black immigrants who have been murdered by these thugs with badges. That's where these guys are. So this is a suicide pact that you have to enter into to talk stupid like this. This is a suicide pact that you have to enter into if you decide that you are not going to show your defiance in the face of white supremacist aggression. You have to have no brain cells in your head in order to do that. But this is what cowards do. Stephon Tuitt is a coward. Jonathan Isaac is a coward. Now it apparently seems he's now a disabled coward. But this is cowardly. You know that the white team owners of these franchises, they've been opposed to the protests since the very beginning. And they've been doing everything that they can to try to undermine them. You know that this is exactly what the white men who write those paychecks want to see and what they want to hear from you. You know full well it's exactly what the white sports writers want to hear. Those guys, most of them, they're nothing more than PR people for the Klan based on the way that they report on black athletes. Everybody knows that these white guys, who some of them who were silly enough to think that they could be athletes, didn't make the cut. They've been living with bitterness since they were kids, since they were little brats, that the black athletes ran them out the yard. So they figured, if I can't beat you on the court, if I can't beat you on the field, then I'll try to beat you with a pen instead in my weekly column. So the Jonathan Isaacs and the Stephon Tuitts, they know that there's a number of white supremacists who either own these sports franchises or who write about them or what have you. And that the easiest way to get on the good side of entrenched white power is to defy and otherwise agree to oppose any sort of action by black people that looks like we're standing in our own power and looks as if we are laying down the law. If you're not being a good little nigger, then there's something wrong. Family, do not let anybody tell you that the NBA is going to go out of business. If all of that flag waving, saluting the flag and standing for the national anthem horse crap, if any of that garbage really was saleable, if that was the kind of thing that was truly marketable and made the difference between whether or not a sports league is popular or not, then nothing would be more popular in America than NASCAR. So those hayseeds, they salute the flag, American or Confederate. They're not really discriminatory about that. Star Spangled Banner, all that bull crap. And NASCAR is dying. That's part of the reason why they had to ditch the Confederate flag. The Confederate flag is a lot of things, none of them good, but the one thing it will never be is marketable. Nobody ever looks and says the Confederate flag is a good way to build our brand. The Confederate flag is how you expand your brand. The Confederate flag does not expand an audience, it kills your audience. And as far as all of that hip hip hooray, salute the flag bullcrap, nah, that's not what people tune in to see. Doesn't matter how many whiners you have on Twitter, that is not what has an audience. Nothing's more entertaining than watching black men playing sports. We already got that on lock. So that being the case, hey, we had to put up with some stuff that we don't like. Now you get to see what it's like to be in our shoes. And screw Stephon Tuitt if he's got a problem with that. Man, the doggone Players Inc., I think that's what the NFL calls their Players Association, Players Inc., they should have run this scumbag out. But then again, can you really expect a bunch of $40 million slaves to actually ride homes is going to put any butts in seats? Every time that they even lift a finger that looks like they're disagreeing, management has to cave in. And the reason why is without them black players, you ain't got no revenue. It's as simple as that. And no amount of boot licking, butt kissing, and buck dancing should ever be tolerated. There should be zero tolerance for that. And that should also be zero tolerance from those of you who claim that you like sports. Now, I don't like sports and follow it, but I know that a lot of my people do. Let's be honest. A lot of you here, you guys are glad that I'm talking about this because it's something that you can engage with because you care about sports. You may not have a doggone clue who the white supremacist cops are in your town, but you damn sure know who your favorite players are and all their stats. And you know I'm right. But the thing is, you should not be tolerating any of this garbage. You should be calling it out for what it is. If somebody decides that because they're over here in the United States, because we opened the doors to get them in here, and we gave them every opportunity that they've ever had, and they turn around and decide to reward us for that by spitting on our faces and telling us that they're going to side with the white supremacists, man, you're wrong all day long. Anyone who volunteers to be a white supremacist mouthpiece, we got to make it very clear that they are to be delegitimized. This is part of that process. We can't have clowns like Stephon Tuitt and Jonathan Isaac thinking that they're going to be telling the white media, hey, push this lie that, see, here's some black guys and we don't care about this. No, we got to make it very clear. There's a reason why Isaac and Tuitt are doing everything that they can to show out for massa. We've got to be the ones who are actually pushing the narrative on it. What that means is people need to understand when these guys pop their empty heads up and start talking all this bull crap, first thing people need to understand is these guys don't have anything in common with the people who are taking on white supremacy. They don't have anything in common with us. These guys, we need people to understand that these guys are coming from a completely different place, a place of subservience and submission to white supremacy, not a place of defiance against it. These are clowns trying to find a comfortable place under white supremacy. They are not attempting to have any black people who will be free from it. And they speak for no one but themselves. Nobody's going to delegitimize these liars because it's not in white power's interest to do so. Same way that you don't see them doing anything in regards to a Joy Reid or in regards to a Kareem Jean-Pierre, he spokes liars for the white media or for the left arm of white supremacy or the right arm or any other arms that it's got. And before I go any farther, look, it doesn't matter what inducement these two chuckleheads were given to do this garbage. A lot of you get stuck on that. Oh, I wonder what they offered him. First of all, a lot of these Negroes, they're just happy just to be here. This is why I keep telling you, white supremacy has two sets of incentives that it likes to give. The first being financial. Well, that's mostly for the white supremacists. If you're black, what they do instead is they try to give you psychic benefits because it doesn't matter, we ain't really trying to put any paper in your pocket. So we're going to give you psychic benefits, a pat on the head. We'll give you some phony praise and why. We'll use our white media to make sure that some of this phony, insincere flattery that we're doing for you is a little bit widespread. So you'll feel as if, oh, they're just showering me with praise. And the truth is you're just grist for the mill. This is just part of the news cycle. You're a useful idiot that they think that they can give a pat on their head. And this is basically not going to move the needle, but it's the only thing that they can do. And that's okay. Given the moronic behavior of Tuitt and Isaac, they're clearly very, very easily pleased as long as it's a white supremacist who's trying to mollify these two chuckleheads. But it doesn't matter what the reward is, whether it was real or imagined. What matters is these two are attempting to use the fact that they're black as a means to run interference for a white supremacist kill agenda that has been proceeding apace against us. That's what these two are attempting to do, and it is not okay. It is not okay. They should not be doing this. They shouldn't be allowed to do this. Black people are literally being murdered in the streets, murdered in their own homes. In the case of both of them, John and Breonna Taylor, many of these black people being murdered are themselves black immigrants, but Jonathan Isaac and Stephon Tuitt don't give a rip about that. Now, what does that tell you? Now, what does that tell you? For all of you people out there who happen to be black immigrants yourselves, first or second generation, who are silent about this, you're the main ones who need to be speaking up about this. Because these guys will be the main ones who try to point out, oh, my mother is from the Caribbean. My grandmother was an immigrant from the Caribbean. My grandfather was from Puerto Rico. And because of that, there ain't nothing wrong with America. There's good land and ain't nothing wrong. Any black person who disagrees, well, they're just making problems. Why? What about black on black crime? There's always going to be a rump contingent of suck-ups and sellouts who are eager to try to throw us under the bus if they think they can get a quick pat on the head from the powers that be. But the thing is, they all want to find out whether or not there's any consequences for being accomplices and apologists for white supremacy. We are not supposed to ever be making excuses for people who have made common cause with white supremacy. Look at the Stephon Tuitt idiot's tweet. My grandmother was an immigrant from the Caribbean, and she worked her ass off to bring 20 people over the right way. Now look at that. That's an especially salient point that we need to focus on for a minute. He's sitting here bragging that his grandmother brought over 20 other people. Now, you know who that sounds like? That sounds like these Latino activists that you hear about. The Dreamers and such, chain migration, etc., etc. See, this guy, when he talks about what he's so proud about with his black grandmother, but with his Caribbean grandmother, because he didn't even say that she was black. He just said that she was Caribbean. So what does that tell you? This guy's sitting here throwing all kinds of shade at us. He doesn't even use the word black. So talking about his Caribbean granny, who brought over 20 of her folks, what he's showing you is, as far as he's concerned, he's an immigrant. He's got things in common with the Mexicans and such. He's got things in common with the Koreans. He ain't got nothing in common with us. That's what this tweet is meant to say. It's meant to say, I ain't got nothing in common with them. That's the mentality that he's got. And he's not alone. That's the damning thing. White supremacy spent a long time making sure that they would have a number of these guys who are supposed to act as some sort of PR and image counterweight to us. If you got a bunch of black folks out there, a lot of the former slaves who have gotten a full head of steam about something, then you bring in a couple of your bought and paid for black immigrants who you already know have been pre-vetted. They don't even consider themselves to be black, and they have disdain for anyone who is. And that being the case, don't worry, they're reliable morons, and they can be counted on to spout whatever idiotic, asinine gibberish that the white powers that be need them to spout today, whatever verbal vomit that you want them to drop on the floor, they'll go ahead and do that. And they do. And we've got to call this mess out when it happens. Those of you who actually do, and I know a lot of you like sports, love it to death. I'm not going to castigate you for that. But the thing about it is you need to be on their behinds when this stuff happens. And the reason why is you've got the most incentive to be, since that's where a lot of your interest is. You got to make it clear, hey, these white supremacists are trying to incentivize black people to remain silent in the face of a race war being prosecuted against us. We got to make it clear. Nobody's going to be allowed to hide behind some insincere Bible verses like this Isaac guy did. And two, it's not going to hide behind the casket of his black, Caribbean granny. You ain't going to be able to hide behind that. Because the only reason that your granny was able to come to the U.S. and become a nurse is because black people had been fighting to make sure that there could be black nurses and doctors working in these hospitals, that black people could get into these universities and take these medical courses and get these medical degrees. That's the reason why. Without black folks, your granny would have been mopping floors. She would have been sweeping up somewhere. She would have been a domestic somewhere, and that would have been that. Just like in the Caribbean. That's why your granny came over here. If she had it so good in the Caribbean, she never would have left. So you're going to talk with some respect when you're talking about us. Simple as that. All these black immigrants, you're going to learn how to talk with some respect when you're talking about us. Because as Jonathan Isaac has now found out to his sorrow, the ancestors, including his black Puerto Rican ones, they're all watching what's going on here. And if the ancestors are not pleased, well, next thing you know, you sit here and the ancestors are going, that's right, take a knee, take a knee. You're going, I ain't taking no knee. Well, the ancestors might decide, well, put that punk on his knees. I, for one, do not believe that anything happens by accident. I believe everything happens for a reason. The reason that Jonathan Isaac's career has been cut short is because the ancestors did not approve of what he did. And this Stephon Tuitt character, he's in the NFL. That's a full contact sport. This ain't even a matter of if you jump and land the wrong way. You got 250 and 300 pound dudes charging at you full time. And you're sitting here trying to buck the odds when the ancestors are making it very clear what it is that they are on the side of, and you're making it clear, I'm against the ancestors. I'm against all of that. Screw anybody who has a problem with that. Well, yeah, but what if the ancestors got a problem with it? You know, I think before it's all over, it would not surprise me at all if Stephon Tuitt and Jonathan Isaac have matching wheelchairs. Not saying that anybody's wishing harm on them, but the truth of the matter is, when you offend the ancestors, you've begun a fight that you cannot win. Doesn't matter how many white women the powers that be decide to parade in front of you. It doesn't matter how many pats on the head and you a good little boy that they give you. These white supremacists are not the ones who determine whether or not you're going to still be playing this game. That's going to be determined by powers far higher than them. And you got these idiots offending those powers, running interference for the most immoral, depraved, evil system the world has ever seen. Now, the problem with these clowns is they spent their entire lives trying to amuse white supremacists, trying to be the good little pets for white society. They spent their entire worthless lives being nothing more than brainless creatures of sport. All they're good for is playing games, playing a football game or a basketball game. So as far as they're concerned, it's all a game. It's all a game. But as Jonathan Isaac found out, when the ancestors are moving, it's going to be totally serious, and it will not be a game at all.